Lena Cross sat behind the wheel of her father's old, rusted car, staring out at the polished, gleaming BMW parked in the driveway. Savannah, her younger sister, was beaming, her eyes wide with excitement as their parents fawned over the new gift. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Savannah, effortlessly living the life Lena had always dreamed of, while Lena had inherited only the remnants of the past. Her father's car, a broken-down relic of better days, now represented the dull, neglected existence she had been forced into. The buzz of family voices surrounded her, but they didn't seem to reach her, as if the world around her was muffled. She gripped the steering wheel tighter, feeling the familiar sting of rejection. It was as if she didn't even exist. Savannah, with her perfect grades and flawless charm, was always the family's golden child. But Lena? She was invisible, an afterthought. "Isn't she gorgeous?" her mother gushed, eyes glistening with pride as she admired Savannah's new car. "She deserves it so much." Lena's stomach turned. She had worked hard to graduate, to get through university, and yet here she was, alone in the rusted car that had been her father's, while Savannah, who had done far less, received all the attention. Lena's thoughts raced, her chest tight with frustration. She wasn't being dramatic. She was just tired. Tired of fighting for scraps of love. Tired of being overlooked. The pain wasn't new. It had been there for years. Each milestone she reached had been ignored, while Savannah's every tiny success had been celebrated like a grand achievement. Lena had long ago stopped questioning it. She had learned to deal with it, to suffer in silence. But today, on the day of her graduation, something inside her snapped. The door creaked open. Savannah leaned in, all smiles. "Thanks for the car, Lena. I'll take good care of it." Lena forced a smile, nodding, but her heart clenched. It was a hollow moment. She wanted to shout, to tell Savannah how tired she was of being pushed aside. But instead, she just nodded again, her fingers drumming lightly on the wheel. Savannah walked off, still smiling, completely oblivious to the storm brewing in Lena's chest. Lena rode the bus to her graduation. It was a humbling experience. She stared out of the window, watching the city pass by, but her mind was elsewhere. The weight of the day, of the years of neglect, weighed heavily on her. But as the bus rattled along, a call came through on her phone. Unknown number. Her heart skipped. She almost didn't answer, but then, with a deep breath, she swiped the screen. Lena Cross. A deep voice, foreign but strangely familiar. Yes. Her voice was sharp, the anxiety creeping in. "I've got something important to tell you." The voice paused. "You've been played. Your family, they're not who you think they are." Lena's pulse quickened. Her stomach flipped. "What do you mean?" "You need to know about your stepfather, Charles. He's hiding something. Something big." The line went dead. Lena stared at her phone, her breath shallow. What the hell was that? Who had called? And why? Her hands shook as the bus bumped along the road, her mind spinning. She had known her stepfather was controlling, but now, hearing these words, the suspicion gnawed at her. She could feel it. Something wasn't right. The rest of the bus ride was a blur. Her mind kept replaying the words. Charles is hiding something. She couldn't shake the thought. And what did the caller mean by big? Was it about money? Was it about her mother? By the time Lena arrived at the ceremony, the anger in her chest was a furnace, fueled by the call and the years of neglect. She walked past the crowd of graduates and their families, feeling small, invisible. Her mother was standing with Charles near the stage, chatting animatedly with friends. The sight made her stomach churn. Lena's thoughts drifted back to the flashbacks of her life, the countless times she had excelled, only to be ignored. She remembered getting her first scholarship award in high school, but instead of celebrating her achievement, her mother had spent the evening fawning over Savannah's mediocre dance recital. Then there was the time she won a regional science fair. It was a big deal, a huge accomplishment. But when she arrived home, Charles was too busy to even acknowledge it, his attention fully consumed by Savannah's recent victory in a local tennis match. Why does this keep happening? Lena muttered under her breath, her anger slowly boiling to the surface. She had worked so hard, but it felt like it was never enough. After the ceremony, Lena couldn't take it any longer. She stormed into the living room where Charles was lounging, a beer in hand, smiling smugly as if everything was right in the world. Savannah was with him, and her mother was nowhere to be found. "Charles, we need to talk," Lena demanded, her voice cold and firm. Charles raised an eyebrow, his lazy smile not faltering. "What is it now, Lena? Another one of your little complaints?" Lena's jaw clenched. Why does she get everything? Why does Savannah get all the attention? What do I have to do to get something, anything from you? My achievements mean nothing to you, don't they? Charles leaned back, rolling his eyes. "Oh, come on. You're always the strong one. We never had to worry about you. Savannah needs our support. She's the one who needs help." Lena felt a spark of fury shoot through her. She could barely believe what she was hearing. "You don't even care, do you?" Lena's voice shook with suppressed emotion. "You never cared about me. You just used me as a stepping stone. And you made me feel worthless for so long." Charles snorted. "You're overreacting. Get over yourself." Lena stood there, her body rigid, her chest heaving with the weight of his words. She wanted to scream. She wanted to hit him. But instead, she stood silently, her mind racing. No, this wasn't enough. She needed more than words. She needed answers. Later that evening, Lena went to her mother. She had to. She needed to hear something, anything, that would make this all make sense. But when she spoke, her mother's cold indifference shocked her more than she could have anticipated. "You're fine," her mother said dismissively. "You've always been fine. You've always been strong enough to handle things on your own." Lena's heart sank. What about me? What about how I've been treated? Am I just supposed to deal with it? Her mother shrugged. "You don't need anyone's help. You can handle it." The rejection hit her harder than she could have expected. She stood there, stunned, trying to process her mother's words. But there was nothing. No sympathy. No comfort. Just emptiness. As Lena walked out, the weight of the day pressed down on her like a physical thing. She was done. She couldn't do this anymore. But the question remained, what would she do about it? The answer was simple. She had to fight back. She had to take control. Lena began gathering information, researching legal routes she could take. She was done being a pawn in her family's game. It was time for her to reclaim what was rightfully hers. The chapter ended with Lena staring down at her phone, the next steps already forming in her mind. She was ready for the fight to come. Lena sat at her kitchen table, the weight of the phone call from earlier still hanging over her. The room felt small and oppressive as she traced the edge of her coffee cup, her mind racing. That call, the cryptic words, the promise of secrets that could finally unravel the life her stepfather, Charles, had carefully crafted. It had set something in motion inside her. She couldn't just stand by anymore. She couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. The realization hit her like a freight train. If she wanted control of her life, if she wanted to find justice, it wouldn't be handed to her. She would have to take it. And that meant facing her fears, her family, and most importantly, Charles. Lena's first step was simple, yet daunting. She needed legal help. She needed a lawyer. She made the call. Dean Walker, a sharp and no-nonsense attorney, was recommended by a colleague. After a brief phone conversation, they set a meeting for the following morning. Dean's calm voice over the phone was a small anchor in the storm of uncertainty swirling inside her. He would be the first ally she'd had in a long time. When they met the next day, Lena walked into the law office with her head held high. She was ready. Dean was a man in his mid-40s, wearing a gray suit and a look of professional curiosity. "Miss Cross, it's nice to meet you. Please take a seat. I understand you're dealing with some family matters. Lena sat across from him, the pile of documents she'd been reviewing at home sitting between them. She took a deep breath. It's more than family matters, she began. My stepfather has been manipulating the family finances for years, and I think I have the evidence to prove it. Dean looked at her with interest, but she could see the skepticism behind his eyes. It wasn't unusual. People didn't usually come to him with accusations of family fraud. If you're serious, he said, his tone calm yet alert, we can dig deeper. But you need more than just suspicion. We need hard facts. Lena nodded. I have bank statements, records of transactions, and several emails that point to discrepancies. I don't know the full extent of it yet, but I'm ready to go after him. The conversation continued as Lena outlined everything she had discovered so far, from the strange financial transfers to the unexplained assets that had been funneled through Charles's business. Dean was quiet for a while, reviewing the documents. Finally, he looked up. This is serious, Miss Cross. If your allegations hold up, we'll have a case. We'll need to proceed carefully, but you're on the right track. Lena's heart leapt. This was it. She was going to take control. She would bring Charles down. Days later, Lena sat at her kitchen table again, this time with a much clearer sense of purpose. Dean had agreed to represent her, and they had begun compiling the evidence needed to build a case. But as she reviewed the documents, one in particular stood out. A series of irregular withdrawals from her mother's bank account, made without her mother's knowledge. Lena's stomach twisted as she thought about how long her mother had been kept in the dark, how Charles had manipulated not only her, but everyone around him. She stared at the papers, the weight of the truth crashing down on her. This wasn't just about getting justice for herself anymore. It was about exposing Charles for what he truly was, about freeing her family from the grip of his control. And it was about time. She was deep into her research when the phone rang. It was an unknown number. She hesitated before picking it up. Lena Cross. The voice on the other end was shaky but determined. Yes, who is this? I'm Charles's ex-wife, the voice said, sounding hesitant. I need to talk to you about something. It's important. Lena's heart skipped a beat. This was unexpected. What do you know about him? There was a long pause before the woman spoke again. More than I wish I did. Charles is a manipulator, Lena. He always has been. He's used everyone around him, and I'm afraid your family is no exception. Lena sat up straighter, her mind racing. What do you mean? I wasn't the first woman he did this to, the woman continued. He's always been like this, pulling strings, controlling people for his own gain. And I'm afraid he's still doing it to your family, only now it's worse. I can't keep quiet anymore. You deserve to know what he's done. Lena felt the pieces of the puzzle begin to click into place. Her stepfather had been running a long con, manipulating not just her mother but everyone around him, including his ex-wife. It was all part of his perfect facade. Thank you, Lena said, her voice shaking. I'll do what I can with this information. As the call ended, Lena felt both vindicated and more isolated. The walls of her family were crumbling around her, and the deeper she dug, the more she realized how deeply ingrained Charles's lies were. This was not just a legal battle. It was a fight for her family's future, and she wasn't going to let him destroy everything. Lena's resolve grew stronger with each passing day. She met with Dean again to discuss her next steps. They were preparing for a showdown, one that would expose the truth and tear the mask off Charles's perfect life. But the battle wasn't just about winning in court. It was about standing up for herself, for the first time in her life. Lena wasn't just fighting for her dignity anymore. She was fighting for the truth. The time had come for her to confront her family, her mother, Charles, and Savannah. Lena called for a family meeting. She would lay everything on the table, every lie, every manipulation. She would not be silenced any longer. The day of the meeting, tension hung in the air. Lena arrived early, her heart pounding with anticipation. Charles was already there, his usual confident, almost smug, demeanor in place. Savannah, caught somewhere between confusion and loyalty to their father, sat uneasily beside him. Lena stood at the front of the room, the evidence spread out before her. "I know what's been going on," she said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "I know about the financial fraud, the lies and the manipulation, and I'm not going to sit here quietly anymore." Charles tried to dismiss her, waving his hand as if she were being dramatic. "Lena, you're overreacting," he said, but his voice lacked the usual authority. Lena slammed the documents down onto the table. "These are the facts, Charles. Your perfect little life is built on lies, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows it." Savannah shifted uncomfortably, caught between her sister and her father. Lena could see it in her eyes, confusion, guilt, and uncertainty. Lena wasn't sure where her sister stood anymore. Did she believe her father's lies? Or was she finally starting to see the truth? The tension in the room escalated. Charles shouted, trying to control the situation, but Lena stood firm, unwavering. This was only the beginning. Lena had finally taken control of her own destiny. But what would her family do now? As Lena prepared to move forward, a call came in, the same unknown number flashing on her phone. She picked it up, her heart racing. "This is it," the voice on the other end said. "There's one more thing you need to know about Charles. Something that could change everything." Lena's heart skipped. She wasn't done yet. This battle was far from over. Lena stood at the window, staring out at the quiet street below, lost in thought. The sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow on the room. But inside her, there was still a storm raging. She had come so far, uncovered so many truths, but it was clear to her now, this battle wasn't just about Charles. It wasn't even just about the legal fight. No, this was about her. For years, she had lived in the shadows, hidden behind the expectations of others, her worth defined by the whims of a family who barely saw her. But now, as she looked back at the path she had walked, the hours spent collecting evidence, the harsh confrontations, the slow realization of her own strength, something was different. The weight in her chest was lighter. The burden of being invisible, of being overlooked, was finally beginning to lift. She wasn't just fighting for justice anymore. She was fighting for her own freedom. For the first time, she realized that the power she sought wasn't just in the legal documents, the courtroom victories, or the exposure of her stepfather's crimes. The real power was in reclaiming herself, in choosing her own path and no longer allowing anyone, not even her family, to dictate her worth. But with that realization came a new understanding of the weight of what lay ahead. There was still so much to be done. The legal battle was far from over. And even if she won, there would be scars left on her family. Scars that might never heal. But she was ready. The final step in her quest for justice began with a bold move. Lena and her lawyer, Dean, were preparing to file the public lawsuit against Charles. This wasn't just about money or property anymore. It was about exposing the truth. It was about making Charles face the consequences of his actions. Lena sat across from Dean in his office, feeling the familiar rush of determination surge through her. He handed her a piece of paper, a ledger, one that detailed transactions that Charles had hidden for years. The numbers, the dates, it all made sense. Lena's heart raced as she realized that this was the final piece of the puzzle. "This is it," Lena said, her voice steady. "We've got him." Dean nodded, but there was a glint of concern in his eyes. "This will be a long fight, Lena, and once we file, there's no going back." Lena leaned forward, her resolve hardening. "I know, but I'm ready for it. Let's do this." As they began preparing the lawsuit, Lena's phone rang. It was an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. The voice on the other end was urgent, trembling. "Lena, I have something you need to know. Something about your stepfather. Something that could change everything." Her pulse quickened as the caller continued. "I was once married to him, And what you don't know is that he's been laundering money for years. He's been using the family's assets to cover up his tracks. Lena's mind reeled. The depth of Charles's crimes was staggering. But this was more than just financial manipulation. He had been using their family, their lives, as pawns in his game. The rage that Lena had been carrying for years ignited anew. "Who are you?" Lena demanded. "I'm his ex-wife. I can't stay silent anymore. You need to expose him for what he's done. He's a monster." Lena ended the call, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew what she had to do. There was no turning back now. The legal battle was on, and this new revelation was just the beginning. The family meeting was set for the following weekend. Lena had arranged it, and now she sat in the living room of the family home, waiting for her mother, Savannah, and Charles to arrive. The weight of the moment pressed down on her. This was it. This was where everything would come to a head. When Charles walked through the door, his usual smug expression faltered slightly when he saw the documents laid out on the table. Lena was calm, but there was a fire in her eyes. She had come prepared. "I know about the fraud," she said, her voice steady. "I know about the money laundering. And I'm not going to sit here and let you continue to ruin our lives." Charles scoffed, trying to brush her off. "Lena, you're being melodramatic. This is just business. You don't understand." But Lena wasn't having it. "No, Charles. I understand more than you think. You've manipulated all of us, lied to us, and now I'm going to make sure the truth comes out." Savannah, sitting quietly beside Charles, shifted uncomfortably. Her gaze flickered between Lena and their father. For the first time, Lena saw doubt in her sister's eyes. "You don't understand what you're doing," Savannah said softly, but there was no conviction in her voice. "Dad, he's done so much for us. We owe him." Lena's heart clenched. She had always hoped Savannah would see the truth, but it hurt to hear her defend their father. "I'm not doing this for me," Lena replied, her voice breaking. "I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do, and you'll see that too eventually." Charles glared at her, but Lena stood her ground. The room felt thick with tension, but she could feel something inside her shifting. This was no longer about her relationship with her family. This was about justice. Charles opened his mouth to argue, but then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face turned pale. "I have to take this," he muttered, his voice low and strained. Lena watched as he left the room, his hurried steps echoing down the hallway. She looked at her mother, but Laura was silent, her face unreadable. The truth was out, and there was no going back. Lena spent the next few days preparing for the inevitable. The lawsuit was ready, and the public battle was about to begin. But just as she was about to sign the final paperwork, her phone rang again. It was an unknown number. Her stomach dropped. "Lena, it's me again," the voice said, breathless. "I have one more thing. Something you won't believe." Lena's heart raced as the caller continued. "There's another secret Charles has been hiding. Something much darker, and it could change everything." Lena closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the revelation settling over her. She had no idea what this new twist would bring, but one thing was clear. Her journey wasn't over yet.